Stellar Life. Mission log number 252.
Anytime you subordinate to somebody else and compare your life to them and think they have a better life than you'll inject some of their values into your life, which will cloud the clarity of your own mission. Rose Kennedy, her mission statement said, I dedicate my life to raising a family of world leaders. She didn't try to waver from that. She focused on that. She gave herself permission to be what she really wanted to be. But if we compare ourselves to others and envy other people and try to imitate other people, we'll cloud ourselves and confuse ourselves and distract ourselves from what's deeply meaningful. And each time we do, we'll create symptomatology and confusion and self-depreciation, which is a symptom to let us know we're not being true and authentic. Every symptom in our life, psychologically, physiologically, sociologically, is a feedback to guide us back to authenticity.
Welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. Get inspired and live out loud. From love, freedom, and success to having it all. Here's your host, coach, speaker, and shining star, Orion.
Roger, you're looking good.
Hello and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. This is your host, Orion. Wow, my guest today, I had butterflies before interviewing him. I always have a special place in my heart for him, and I have such a deep respect and gratitude for having him in my life. I remember back in the days where Dr. Demartini was a photo on my vision board, where I was just dreaming of maybe meeting him one day and maybe taking one of his workshops one day. And I ended up taking a few of his workshops and getting to know him personally. And I interviewed him for the Huffington Post. And wow, it is so lovely. He knows me, my husband, my son. It's just brilliant how you can manifest your reality. And we are going to talk about manifestation and how we bring things into reality. And we're also going to talk about how to be in our true value and value ourselves and feel great about ourselves. And we talked about not putting people on a pedestal and see people as equals, and also about what is the difference between passion and mission. You might remember Dr. Demartini from the movie The Secret. He's a self-made man and one of the most brilliant people on the planet. His story is truly inspirational. He went from having been told as a young child that he would never learn, read, write, and communicate. And then he met a mentor who gave him an affirmation about being a genius. And he went to living a life that is dedicated to serving others, focusing on teaching, writing, and traveling. Dr. Demartini is a world-renowned specialist in human behavior, a researcher, author, and global educator. He has studied over 30,000 books across all defined academic disciplines and has synthesized the wisdom of the ages, which he shares on stages over 100 countries. I am super excited to having him back on the show. And if you would like to listen and hear more about him and his wisdom, you can either go to his website or his YouTube channel, or you can go back to episode 30th on Stellar Life Podcast, where I interview him on this show for the first time. And now, without further ado, on to the show.
2, 1, 0.
Hello, Dr. Demartini, and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. It is so wonderful having you here again. Thank you so much for taking away from your busy schedule and being here with us. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Yes. So before we begin, can you share a little bit about how was the last year for you and what you are the most excited about these days?
Well, the last year has been obviously an educational journey. I upgraded my awareness of the internet world and the social media world and the Zoom technology world for sure. But we've had a booming year and I can't complain. I've been blessed. St. Corona has blessed us very well. We've reached people that we've not been able to reach in countries we haven't been able to get to. I can't complain. I've been researching, writing, teaching, and traveling on Zoom.
Yeah, you travel a lot, so that was a big difference for you.
I've already broken the 20 million miles in flights. And but this last year on Zoom, we had people from every country. So it was great to reach the world that way.
Wow. And what do you think people are craving the most this year? What's going on do you feel any shift in the world or in people awareness?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely going to be a desire to physically contact and get together. I mean, I think right now in New York, they're putting on a big celebration where they're going to have, I don't know how many tens of thousands of people are coming out. They're out because they go, okay, the masks are off. We're into work. We're going to go and do it. So I think a lot of people are compensating for the repressed physical contact, and they're out there full blast the second the freedom to do so is there. So I think that's going to be a booming thing. The restaurants and some of the places are just absolutely packed right now. So I think that people are, be having the itch to get out and interact. And there's been where I'm staying here, there's been in this hotel complex, there's been weddings and events and things are, booming here. So.
And do you think as far as spiritual awakening or spiritual awareness, do you feel a shift?
Well, I think that out of the slingshot effect of the challenge of having to adapt, once we conquer that challenge, there's a tremendous amount of grace and gratitude that emerges for knowing that we're resilient and capable and coming up and upgrading technology. So I think a lot of people are grateful for what's come out of it. There's always people that want to be victims of their history instead of masters of their destiny. But this is a catalytic opportunity for people to turn that around and make it into something great. It all depends on the questions you ask. If you ask questions, how is whatever's happening helping me fulfill my mission of service to people? You turn it into opportunity. If not, you dwell on the story and run the story instead of actually run forward with a new creative life.
Yeah, I just posted an episode where I actually interviewed my husband, Stephen Spencer, and we were in Israel for 9 months, and now we're in Florida. And we were in Israel when it was super locked down. Like you couldn't even leave the country. It's like almost 5 months of lockdown. And it was difficult. It wasn't easy. But out of that, it feels like he went through this spiritual awakening. And he's so much more connected to himself and to guidance. And it's really, really fascinating to see what came out of it. And I also feel like in my own life, when I've been through really hard times, at the moment, I didn't see the gift in it, but years down the road, I looked back and it was like a gift with a bow on the bottom. I could look back and I can open it and I can see, wow, this happened. And because this painful situation happened, now I'm better. Now I'm in a completely different place.
Well, I'm a firm believer. It's not what happens to you. It's what you decide to perceive, decide, and act from it. And sometimes we have events in our life that we think are terrible, but a day, a week, a month, a year, 5 years later, we look back and go, thank you. Mm-hmm. So I say, why have the wisdom of the ages with the aging process? Why not look right now for the things to be grateful for, find the creative ideas out of it, use it to your advantage, and have the wisdom of the ages without the aging process?
Right.
It seems like that's what you've done. You've turned the challenge into opportunity, and now you're able to serve and even more. So, yeah, I'm a firm believer that it's up to us to take command. We have control over our perceptions, decisions, and actions. That's it. So if we choose to perceive things as a setback, well, it becomes one. If we choose to see it as an opportunity because we extract out of it opportunity, then it turns into something that fuels us, not frictions us.
And how can one get out of victim mentality? Because I feel like sometimes I do it, or I can talk to other people and I can hear almost the victimhood, like they don't take responsibility for their lives or everything is done to them.
Yeah, well, the thing is if they're going to play that role and they're going to be in their amygdala and they're going to be searching for fantasies, the only reason why we're depressed and the only reason why we label something negative is because we're comparing that current moment of reality to a fantasy about how it used to be or how we wish it would be. Instead of getting grounded on how it is and use that to our advantage, we keep running a story about how it could have been, should have been, would have been, used to be. And that's not going to get you anywhere. Running your story, if you really care about yourself, quit hanging out with people that will listen to your story. Hang out with people that will say, shut the hell up and get on to work. If we fill our day with the highest priority actions that we can do in that moment to make a difference in the world and contribute to other people and focus on serving people, we don't have time for our wallowing and pity party. We need to focus on making a difference in the world.
Right. It doesn't serve us. And it doesn't serve us. Sometimes people will hang out with people that will listen to their misery. But like you said, it doesn't help because it just keeps you said in the amygdala. What's the job of the amygdala?
Well, the amygdala wants to avoid predator and seek prey, avoid pain, seek pleasure, avoid difficulty, seek ease. And It wants to search for that which keeps it juvenilely dependent, and it doesn't grow up. And it attracts even more disturbing, distracting, and distressing challenges every time it seeks to avoid them. Whatever you try to run away from, you keep running into. So that's a pointless pursuit. Wisdom is embracing the challenges that inspire you and tackling them, going after and solving a problem in the world. Instead of focusing on your trivial problems, go focus on a big problem and solve it. Find resources or people or whatever, or talents to go solve problems. And when you do, you have fulfillment. The greater the problem you solve, the greater the fulfillment you get. So focusing on that is the solution, not sitting here wallowing in a pity party. Pity party and trauma drama and ho-hum doldrums is not the way to turn scars into stars.
Nice. Because you're either complaining or creating. How do you deal with challenges?
Well, I change my perception of them and see them as opportunities. I don't sit there, I just turn them around. Everything that can manifest in the universe has got a pair of opposites, and you can see it as something supportive or challenging to your values. If you see it as challenging, you're going to label it that way, and you're going to avoid it. If you see it as an opportunity and see it supporting your values, you're going to embrace it. I always say, so whatever's happening right now, how is it helping me fulfill my mission? How's it helping me get where I want to go? How's it helping me serve more people? Once I find the upsides to it, it changes the perception, and it doesn't even be labeled. You're not even labeling it a challenge because it never was. See, when you're resentful to something or avoiding something, you're conscious of the downsides, unconscious of the upsides. You're not being mindful. When you're infatuated with something, you're conscious of the upsides and unconscious of the downsides. Again, non-mindful. But the moment you ask the question to allow you to see both sides, you become mindful. And mindful always comes up with a solution to every so-called problem.
How do you ask that question?
Just ask the simple question, whatever I'm perceiving right now, how is it on the way? How's it helping me get what I want? How's it helping me serve more people? How's it helping me become more efficient? What is it teaching me? And come up with it and sit down and be accountable to write the answers down. And don't stop until you get a tear of gratitude for the experience. Because if they take you experience, if you got an experience and you walk through it, you're only a more empowered individual.
Yeah. What are some ways to find empowerment?
I think anytime you're living by your highest values, your self-worth goes up, your creativity goes up, your space and time horizons go up, your walking of a talk and leadership capacities go up. It's a key. If you don't fill your day with high priority actions that inspire you and ask how is whatever's happening helping me fulfill what's highest in my value, you're automatically going to fill up a day with distractions that don't. Your job is not to let entropy run your life, but to actually let a vision and dream and a mission, something that you're inspired by, some calling in your life that you want to contribute to focus on that all day. If you do that, you won't have time for problems. You'll fill your day. We all know that if we have a day that's really, really filled with an agenda of high priority things, it's easy to say no to distractions and opportunists. But if you're not, you got your day wide open and there's nothing on your plate, you're going to be vulnerable to all kind of infiltrations of opportunists and all kind of challenges that are going to take up the time. Parkinson's law states that whatever time's allotted, it's going to fill with low priority things if you don't fill it with high priority things.
Nice. How do you prioritize your day? What do you do?
Well, I asked myself back, 36, almost 37 years ago, I asked, what are the highest priority actions I can do today to help me fulfill my mission? And I wrote those down on an index card and kept those index cards and looked at what was the priorities of the priorities of the priorities of the priorities over the years. And it came to me, just simply research, write, travel, teach. So I basically hired people to do everything but that. So I basically hired people to, cook and drive. I haven't driven in 30-something years. I haven't cooked since I was 24. I delegate everything, even to my girlfriend. I went to my girlfriend and I said, look, if I could get Hugh Jackman and Brad Pitt and Gerard Butler, a few other people to take and make love with you on my behalf, every time they say yes, I would love you even more.
No, come on.
I'm joking.
No.
I'm joking about that. But what I'm saying is that if you delegate, you liberate. I say no to all things that aren't inspiring to me and say yes to things that are and fill my day with inspirations. You can't live an inspired life doing low priority stuff.
Can you share a little bit about how to determine one's value? I know you have something on your website that can help people have the exercise to do that.
Yeah, well, on my website, Demartini.com, there's a value determination process for people to help them find out what their life is truly demonstrating it's important to them. Because a lot of times people tell you they want to do something, but it's actually an infiltration of individual or collective authorities speaking through them. And they hear themselves saying, I should, I ought to, I supposed to, I got to, I have to, I must. And it's imperatives instead of something indicative to what their life demonstrates. And I tell people, until you find out what's really important, quit going after things that you think are important but aren't important, you're going to need motivation instead of being spontaneously inspired to act. And so what I do on my website is I have 13 questions to help discern what that is. And if you go on there onto my website, drdemartini.com, and fill out the questionnaire and store it there, it's private, it's free, it'll blow your mind what you learn about yourself. If you don't know yourself and you don't be yourself, you're not going to love yourself. And knowing yourself is knowing what you really value and prioritizing your life accordingly. So what it does is it asks, how do you fill your space? And how do you spend your time? And what really energizes you? And what are you really spending your money on? And what is it you're really organized in? And where are you really spontaneously disciplined? And what do you think about, visualize, and internally dialogue with yourself about most? And what do you keep conversing about other people about? And what is it that inspires you? What is it you have that are goals that are coming true? And what is it that you love learning about? Questions that make you look at what your life demonstrates, not the fantasies you hold because of comparison to other people. The key is to find out what you're intrinsically driven by and prioritize your life accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have a very high value on being a mom. And so I almost put my business, most of it aside, and I just want to be a mom. Took me a very long time and it was very difficult to conceive. Doctors gave me 5% to conceive. In my mind, I decided it's 95 and co-created with God, this miracle baby. And it's like, the only thing I want to do is just be a mom. It's like, this is my highest value. And on the other hand, I have guilt. Oh my God, I have all this knowledge. Oh my God, I need to help people. Oh my God, I need to work on my business. Look at those other moms that can do it all. And so I have this conflict inside of me that I feel like it's not resolved.
Well, anytime you subordinate to somebody else and compare your life to them and think they have a better life than you'll inject some of their values into your life, which will cloud the clarity of your own mission. Rose Kennedy, her mission statement said, I dedicate my life to raising a family of world leaders. She didn't try to waver from that. She focused on that. She gave herself permission to be what she really wanted to be. But if we compare ourselves to others and envy other people and try to imitate other people, we'll cloud ourselves and confuse ourselves and distract ourselves from what's deeply meaningful. And each time we do, we'll create symptomatology and confusion and self-depreciation, which is a symptom to let us know we're not being true and authentic. Every symptom in our life, psychologically, physiologically, sociologically, is a feedback to guide us back to authenticity.
Yes, and I still have this sense of guilt of like, oh my God, I can really help someone if I'll do more coaching calls. Yeah, I feel guilty like I've been given all these gifts.
But you only feel guilty when you're letting what you think somebody down. So it could be your husband, it could be your friends, it could be somebody else that you envy and imitate online. But you wouldn't feel guilty if it's really, 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 really important to you. You stick to it. You won't feel guilt. It's when you're trying to do something that you think somebody else wants you to do and you feel like you're letting them down. That's when the guilt comes in. If you want to go and do a podcast periodically and do a service to people, do it at your own rate. Do it according to what you don't feel guilty about. Allow yourself to be that. Because otherwise you're going to sit there and compare yourself to others and think I should be somebody else. Anytime you're a cat trying to swim like a fish, you're going to beat yourself up and feel guilty because you're not going to excel at it.
Yeah, I'm definitely a cat. I'm more a cat than a fish. Yeah, I got it. That's awesome. What about self-love? How can we increase? Because I think it goes together with loving yourself more, appreciating yourself more. And I feel like if you are in like super deep love and appreciation for yourself, it doesn't matter what other people say or do or all the shoulda, coulda, woulda in your life. You're just, I live in the moment. This is my life and I appreciate every moment of it.
You just said it perfectly. When you're living by your highest values, you're most objective, most neutral, most resilient, most adaptable, least influenced by other people on the outside. Remember I said many years ago when we first met, when the voice and the vision on the inside is louder than all opinions on the outside, you begin to master your life. And the moment you live authentically according to what you value most, which is where your identity really is, you don't have those guilts. You don't have those shoulds. You're too busy doing something that you feel is your mission. But the second you go and try to be down and live on something lower on your values because you think you should according to other people that you're comparing yourself to, boom, self-depreciation comes in. And the self-depreciation is a gift. It's a feedback to let you know you're not being authentic. You're allowing other things to distract you from what's really pertinent to you.
Yeah, and allowing other people to tell you what you should do and how you should live your life.
Yeah, but everybody's got a different set of values, and they're always going to project their values onto you, and they're different. And trying to be somebody else, As Emerson said, envy is ignorance and imitation is suicide. And Einstein said, my contempt for authority is what made me one. He became authority because he didn't subordinate to authority.
Wow. Wow, that was powerful that I forgot my next question. I was there. I was there with the quotes. I was like, that's so powerful. When you think about increasing self-love, is there an exercise or something that people can do to find that place within them?
Yeah. Sit down and don't even waste your time on anything but the highest priority things, because anytime you do the highest priority things, your self-worth goes up. That's really that simple. Your self-worth is based on what your values. The higher the value, the higher the self-worth. The lower the values you live by, the lower the self-worth. And then give yourself permission to go and document what you're grateful for the day. I keep the largest collection of gratitudes of anybody I've met on earth. And I do it every single day. I've already typed the opportunity to be with you today on there.
All right.
I do it every day. Every day I write my what I've had the opportunity to do and what I'm grateful for in the day, because then that gives me a metric. It's wise to keep a metric on what you're accomplishing. If you say you're going to do something and you're not doing it, it must not be important to you. So then that helps you get feedback to what's really important to you, because that's what you end up doing. That's why you want to look at your life and be honestly reflective of what it's demonstrating, not what you fantasize. I ask people by the thousands, if I'm speaking, how many of you want to be financially independent? Everybody puts their hand and legs up in the air. And then I said, how many of you are financially independent? They all legs go down and hands go down. So, because many of you live in a fantasy of living the lifestyles of the rich and famous and consuming consumables that depreciate in value instead of buying assets that work for you and put money in your pocket and give you passive income. So many people have a delusion about what they want instead of actually looking at what their life demonstrates. Start with what your life is truly committed to demonstrating and set goals that are there, and you won't beat yourself up. You'll actually grow and expand and do something significant that makes a difference.
Yeah, it's beautiful. 10 years ago, I had a vision board. I created a vision board. And one of the photos on the vision board was you.
I think you mentioned that. We were sitting in the Fairmont Hotel out there in a little circle out near the Highway 1 in a little cove there. If you remember, we had a little circular cove there. It's a little noisy there, but we did a little interview, and I remember that.
Yeah, I remember. I did it for the Huffington Post. It was a good interview.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that then.
Yeah, I mentioned that, and I still remember it. I'm still in awe that, wow, I'm talking to the great Dr. Demartini. This is so beautiful. I'm so grateful. When you think about manifesting things from nothing into reality, how do we do that? I happen to do that through prayer, through vision boards, through intention. Mostly prayer, a little more prayer. And I happened to manifest the love of my life and having my baby, which was not easy. And I feel like I'm at a place where I forgot what it's like to be manifesting, even though I am right now in a very beautiful place that I never imagined living in. But how do you go back to that desire and that creative spirit of manifestation and working with those universal laws and the law of attraction and other universal laws?
We automatically are created by nature. But what happens is whatever's highest on our value is what spontaneously comes up into our mind. And what we do is that's where our clearest attention is. We're more attentive to the environment for the opportunities and synchronicities, and we're more intentful in the sense of taking actions and decisions. So the key is to actually get clear about what's really important to you, because your innermost dominant thought will become your outermost tangible reality, because it's the one that you're going to be most persistent and consistent in thinking about. It's the one that's going to end up having the one that you build momentum and incremental momentum towards greater achievement. It's the one that's going to allow you to spot in the environment the opportunities and act on them. So yeah, it's back to the same answer, sticking to top priorities. I tell people, if you want to depreciate yourself and actually undermine the law of attraction, go try to be somebody you're not. And then the universe is going to kick you in the butt by giving you the feedback that that's not the pathway. Once you get all back on track with your authentic self, the high priority things, the thing that's deeply meaningful to you, watch what happens. The law of attraction starts kicking into gear and you start manifesting these almost instantaneous manifestations. We've all had situations we think about people and they've called or they suddenly emailed or whatever. And that's because of our clarity of our intention. We're connected to them. And I'm a firm believer that if we focus on what it is that's really deeply meaningful to it and never lose sight of it. I had a vision many years ago when I watched a movie by Houdini, and I saw him perform at the Palladium in London on this movie. And at the end, there are 2,000 people in standing ovation, and there's royalty in the upper balcony. And I saw him bow and take his standing ovation. And I sat down and I said, you know what? I'm snapshotting that picture out of the movie. I'm putting myself in there. In 2007, on the Akasha conference, I was the speaker at the Palladium with 2,000 people in royalty in the upper left balcony.
Oh, my goodness.
I actually bowed in the exact same way he did and remembered that moment.
Oh, my goodness.
And snapshot that picture from front and back just to make sure it matched the thing that I saw in the movie. And I'm a firm believer that if you hold a vision of something like that, you can create amazing outcomes. But you just got to, if it's not important to you, you won't stay focused on the mission. You won't stay there. You'll forget it. If it's really important to you, you'll never forget it until it's manifested.
What I was battling with, I feel like in the last few weeks, is I have a lot of abundance in my life and I'm super grateful. But there is sometimes this little girl that grew up in this poor, broken house. It's like she doesn't believe she deserves it. I have the ability to have what I want, but I don't believe that I deserve it.
Well, anything that you think you've done that's not worthy of, that you feel is unfulfilling, undeserving, or whatever, write down whatever you did and how it served you and how it served others and clear it. Because it's just an assumption that you've caused more pain and pleasure to somebody in the world, and that makes you self-depreciate. But find out how it served. There is no situation that doesn't serve. Anything that's on this planet is serving. Just because somebody else doesn't see it doesn't mean you can't look for it and find it. So I'm a firm believer in making a list of everything you feel ashamed of or guilty about, or anything that if you were to be exposed publicly about it, you would go, oh, I want them to see that. Write them all down and write down whatever I did, how did it serve me and how did it serve the people that are involved, and clear it out. Otherwise, you'll carry that around and you'll feel like you have to owe the world something that you may not, and you'll have difficulty receiving.
Right. Yes. It's like, why me and not them? It's again the weird guilt of why do I have it and somebody else don't.
You just explained it. You're sitting there concentrating on what you want. You're focusing on priority. You're doing the things that you love to do. You're raising the family. You're actually manifested the thing. They're not taking the time to do that. That's why they're getting their result. I don't believe there's victims of history out there. I've met people that live in townships, I had a boy that had 9 brothers and sisters. He was 14 years old. He came to my program. His mother and father both died of AIDS. He was living in a shack. They didn't have electricity or even a floor. And I watched him come to the program, turn his life around, started saving 15% of 60 cents a day that he was earning stacking mud bricks. And I watched him go out and buy a little shack and upgrade his system, save money, build things. I watched him get out of his situation because he took action. And I watched a lot of other people in that same situation run their story and want somebody to rescue him. The difference between getting out of that situation and staying stuck in that situation is your attitude. And that determines the altitude. And so if you take that and perceive things different and take actions different and start to be grateful in your life, things turn. You move in a direction of opportunity.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you for that. That makes me very happy to hear what you just said. And when we attract good things into our lives, it's, I don't know, maybe we do deserve it. And maybe, like you said, there is a reason for that.
Well, if you've got an opportunity to have more of an abundant life and you've got a husband that's participating in that and everything else, he wouldn't be doing that if he didn't value you. So he's obviously seeing a value that you're not seeing in yourself. So ask him what the values are and have a night together where you sit down and list all the things that you're grateful for in each other and watch what happens.
Nice. I love that. Sounds like a good night.
Yeah, you probably end up with a very moment of reflective intimacy and appreciation for your journey.
Yes. My coach just gave me an assignment to ask 10 of my closest friends and family members of like 5 things that are my best qualities and 5 things that are things that I maybe need to work on. What do you think about this exercise?
You got to realize that everybody, their opinions are going to be based on their values and they're going to project their values onto you. So, that's great. But I found out that no matter what you do, you got people supporting and challenging you, liking and disliking you. You're a hero and a villain, a saint and a sinner, and a virtuous and a vicious individual to somebody. And I don't let the outside world dictate that. I just go inside and I find out whatever I've done, how is it serving, and use it to my advantage. And there's going to be people that like and dislike me, and they're going to try to change me and fix me. And I just don't pay attention much of it. But what I do is I find that if I'm going out and doing what I can to make a difference in people's lives and serve the people that I can do in my niche of the world, I ended up having fulfillment. But there's always going to be somebody that's going to think you need to change because they're projecting their values onto you and you're challenging their values by your existence. But look at what Copernicus went through and Galileo went through and Bruno, all the great thought people automatically had people. Because anytime you go against the grain, the tradition, the convention, and stand out and not conform and start giving yourself permission to be unique and an unborrowed visionary to make a bigger difference, people around you, the mediocrity, are automatically going to challenge you. So I would be selective on listening to those people and make sure that they're people that are really, really dedicated to doing some mission so their opinion has value.
Oh, wow. That's powerful. That makes it even better. Wow. Somebody in your position, somebody who teaches, I don't know how many millions of people you've taught so far. I bet you get criticism. Do you not even feel it when you get criticism? How do you not take it personally or take it to heart?
Because I understand that whatever somebody sees in you is a reflection of something they're too proud or too humble to admit that they have inside themselves. So they're just facing themselves. They're pointing their finger back at themselves more so than me. So I don't really pay much attention to that. If I see a pattern of people that keep repeatedly say something like that, I might pay attention to it just to see if they're giving some feedback. But I realize that no matter what I do in life, there's somebody going to like it, dislike it. And most of the time when people are projecting their criticism on you, it's because I'm reminding them of something they're not loving in themselves, and it's making them want to avoid and change me so they don't have to face their own stuff. So I can't let somebody else's wounds affect my life. I'm here on a mission, and I focus on my mission every day. And along the way, I'm going to have people that are liking and disliking that mission, or otherwise I'm not making a difference. If you're not being crucified, you're not on purpose in life.
Right. What's your mission?
My mission has been since 17 to research everything I can by the greatest writers and thinkers and philosophers and people and anything to do with maximizing human awareness and potential, and integrate that and correlate that and synthesize that and syncretize that in such a way that I can produce that in every possible vehicle to express that in radio, television, newspapers, magazines, movies, books, any possible vehicle to get information out that might upgrade and expand and give opportunity to people across the world.
Wow. That's a tall order. And, well, you're the one. I heard you talk about mission versus passion. And a lot of self-development gurus and coaches, they talk about connecting to your passion, finding your passion. What's your take on it?
Well, if they just go look up on Google the passion, type in passion dash etymology, etymology. Just type it in. You'll see it comes to a root word that means pati and passio, which means to suffer. So the word passion means to suffer. The word compassion means to suffer with somebody. So one wounded person buying into the wounds of another person. I have no interest in that. I have absolutely no interest in trying to help people suffer or have suffering with them. I'm interested in teaching people how to master their life, how to turn whatever they thought was suffering into opportunity so they can be inspired by a mission. I'm a man on a mission, not a passionate guy. Passion is an ungoverned, uncontrolled animal behavior of the amygdala, a response that basically is a survival response from avoiding predator and seeking prey. That's passion. And that's an impulse state. So it's somehow in 1985, when the Passion for Excellence book came out, the lexicon got changed in common use. And the common vernacular now, people go and find your passion. But what they're really applying is mission. But they're not understanding the etymologies of it. So I'd much rather disperse great things with my mission than I would sit there and be running my life by elusive passions. I just tell people to go get the etymologies and go study the background of the term, and not the more recent ones that have been skewed, but the ones that originally. Studying etymology, as the great philosophers said, are keys, because some of these words have deep meaning originally by the etymologist and the neologist that started the words. So I'm a firm believer that I use the word mission. I'm a man on a mission. People label me that on interviews sometimes. Oh, you're so passionate. I said, no, I'm on a mission. There is a difference.
Well, I guess your girlfriend will think you're passionate.
Well, it depends. Anytime you're infatuate with somebody, you're too humble to admit what you see in them is inside you, and you have a disowned part and a disconnect. And anytime you resent somebody, you, again, are too proud to admit what you see in them is inside you and have a disconnect. You have two disopposed parts. You're not going to have intimacy with somebody and love for somebody if you keep having disowned parts. It's when you actually own and reflect and realize what you see in them is inside you, so you can identify and relate to them and reflect in your awareness that you can have intimacy. Intimacy is the embracing of all the parts you see in them inside you without avoiding or seeking any of them.
That's beautiful. How do you even work on yourself anymore? Is there anything that
There's no end to refinement and polish of the mission that you're on. Every day you ask yourself, how do I become more effective and efficient at fulfilling my mission? That's a nonstop game. But I don't find that moral language, I'm better, I'm worse, or I'm good, or I'm bad, or I'm right, or I'm wrong. I don't find those productive. I find those are survival thinking that leads to moral hypocrisies, because I don't try to get rid of half of myself to love myself. There's nothing to get rid of. Every part of you serves. And the moment you finally realize that every part of you serves, the nice, the mean, the kind, the cruel, the positive, the negative, the giving, the taking, when you can embrace all parts of yourself, you can love yourself. But you're not going to love yourself trying to get rid of half of yourself.
Beautiful. I like the way you said it. Moral hypocrisy. I never thought of it like that.
Well, moral hypocrisy is the fantasy. In case people don't know, a lot of the morals came out of institutional religions and politics in order to keep people disempowered. If you want to keep people disempowered and make it easy to control, tell them an ideal that they're supposed to live by that they can't live by. If I went up to you and I said, you're always nice, never mean, always kind, never cruel, your own intuition would go, no, that's not true. If I said you're always mean, you're never nice, you're always cruel, you're never kind, your intuition would go, that's not true. But if I said sometimes you're kind, sometimes you're cruel, sometimes you're nice, sometimes you're mean, sometimes you're positive, sometimes you're negative, sometimes you're peaceful, sometimes you're wrathful, you'd immediately go, yep, that's true. So why bother with being something that's not true when you can be authentic and embrace both sides?
Is there a way to embrace both sides that is less intellectual and more of the heart?
Well, the second you see both sides, you go into your heart. That's the thing. Lopsided perceptions and polarized emotions is not the heart. They may be emotional feelings, but they're not the heart. The heart is a state of grace, a state of presence, a state of certainty, a state of love, a state of inspiration and enthusiasm for life. So when you embrace both sides and see that both serve you, our intuition is trying to find the upsides to what we think are down and the downsides to what we think are up to get us back into the mean so we can be our real self. And the moment we're authentic and not proud looking down on people or shame looking up at people and just being people and having reflective awareness and seeing equitably between us and them, now our heart's open. So I say, don't put people on pedestals or pits, put them in your heart. Then you have a balanced perspective and you have equanimity. And that's where grace occurs.
Yeah. And you're very good at that. I've noticed you interact with people throughout the years, and you have such kindness and such love to people when you're with them. And I really admire that. I'm not putting you on a pedestal. I'm just saying it's a beautiful thing that I see.
Wait until you go and see me at the airport and they said, well, we somehow overbooked the flight. I'm not a nice person. I don't want to promote that fantasy. I'm not a nice person. I'm not a mean person. I'm a human being with both of those potentials. If you support my values, I'm a pussycat. If you challenge my values, I can be a tiger.
I know. And I just want to acknowledge those times where you were like, you handle people so beautifully. I saw that. I didn't see you at the airport. I'm sure you can be a tiger, but I'm just saying.
No, I don't want to get rid of my tiger. I know my tiger has a place. I used it the other day and it was very effective. And we got somebody, in the breakthrough experience, my signature program where I help people, we had somebody that was playing tough ball and trying to be resistant and trying to play wounded person. I went in there and I did not let them run their story. I broke them through and I was tough on them. And at the end, they had tears of gratitude and they said, thanks. And I said, I need both sides. If I would have been wussy-pussy around that one, I wouldn't have got the result. So I need both sides in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a time in my life after I was out of an abusive relationship. The guy hit me once and ended up in the hospital. And I broke up with him the next day. And then for, 2-3 years, I did everything in my ability I studied martial arts. I studied MMA. I studied Aikido. And I was weightlifting like the boys. I became really tough. I was very much in what you can call masculine energy. And that was really hard for me to be or find a relationship where I try to emasculate every guy that I'm with, because the question that ran in my life was, how can I not get hurt? And coming into any relationship with that question is not a good thing.
The thing is that made you more independent, made you find out you have both. And all relationships strive for androgyny. So if you're very, very much on the gender side to the feminine side of the old traditional gender idea, well, the spouse will end up having to be on the other side. They'll play of opposites to bring androgyny to the game.
Right.
So that's okay. And whatever side you play, you're worthy of love. And sometimes if you get challenged, you automatically get testosterone built up in you and you start to do the things that testosterone tends to lead to. And that's great. That's a chapter in your life that's still served too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can see it.
You can keep Stefan in place by doing that. You can arm wrestle him right down and keep him under and make it playable.
But then I had a breakthrough and I went on this journey to find my feminine self and to find what I call the goddess within and the softness, because it was becoming way too much. It was like I was walking in a beautiful day on a beach wearing this heavy armor, and it was hard to even walk with it.
Well, you were rock S. Instead of rock E, you were rock S for a while.
Yes. And so I did the whole shift to the more like finding my feminine and being more in that feminine and flow, and did a lot of many workshops, and went on retreats and find that part of me. And then I felt too weak. I was like, where is, like you said, that tiger, that lioness? Where is she? I miss her. And so I found a way, like throughout the years, to integrate it. And I feel like when I'm more on one side than the other, then I'll take actions to, you call it androgyny. I call it more harmony in myself,
exactly.
Within myself.
Well, that is harmony. That's what all nature strives for. All organizations, all relationships, all families strive for an androgynous harmony between the pairs of opposites. That's the beauty of the eclectic integration of you might say the Tao or the yin yang or whatever you want to call it. It's the pair of opposites. That's what love is. Love's the synthesis and synchronicity of those pairs of opposites.
Yeah. And I feel that throughout the day, like you said, I'm not one thing or another. I'm not a saint or a sinner. I can be so many things throughout the day with so many people. And it is about loving the whole of you, loving everything, the good and the bad.
I don't even call them good and bad. I don't put moral language on it. I just say these are the two expressions of my nature, and I need both of them in my journey. And to think I'm going to get rid of one of them is a moral hypocrisy. That's the thing. That's why you find out that the people that you think are the heroes, they eventually find out they also got the villain. A lot of heroes turn into villains over time. I don't even try to be a hero. I already know I'm a hero villain.
I like that. And, just being around some of the greatest minds in the world and studying with them and being close to them, I've started to see that. And in the beginning, it was hard. It was like being unplugged from the matrix and then seeing that, oh my God, they're human too. No, I really wanted to have everyone be a hero.
That sets you free to wake up your own power. Because if you think they're a hero, you'll subordinate to them. If you think they're a villain, you'll aggrandize yourself to them. If you see both sides, you're able to be yourself.
Yeah, nice. I'm still finding myself. It seems like it's never ending. I'm still not finding myself. I'm still finding more things about myself that I want to work on, that I want to improve, that I want to excel, that I want to refine.
You may find out that all the things you have, there's nothing to fix. As Epictetus, the Greek philosopher, said at one time, when you're first starting your journey, you blame things on the outside. When you go through the journey, you blame things on the inside. And then eventually you realize there's nothing to blame. There's a hidden order to it. And then you finally realize, my God, I can look in the mirror and say, thank you, I love you.
Oh, I love that. Yes. It's embracing all your perfect imperfections.
It may not even be imperfections, or I don't think there are. I think somebody calls an imperfection as something that they're comparing their action to somebody else's values. And when they think somebody else has got imperfection, they're comparing their actions to your values.
As soon as I said that, I bit my tongue because I knew you were going to tell me that.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the imperfections are perceptual, not actual.
Mm-hmm. On a different topic, how do we deal with fear?
Well, fear is simply an assumption that you're about to experience through your senses or imagination from somebody or yourself, more drawbacks and benefits, more pains and pleasures, more losses and gains, more disadvantages and advantages, and there is no such thing. So we just have an assumption that it's going to happen, but actually it's not there. And because no matter what happens, if we perceive it as more disadvantage and advantage, it's not because of what it is or what happened, it's because of our perception. So if we go and find the advantages of what's happening, we don't have to live in the fear. If we sit down and take, okay, what if this happened? Okay, what's the advantages if it happens? Oh, once the advantage is equal to disadvantage, you can't feel fear. And there's no fear of the unknown. There's only fear of the content that you have these perceptions about. So if you balance out your perceptions, you can't have fear or fantasy. And most people get addicted to fantasy and then they live their life in fear. Their fantasies make their nightmares. So I'm a firm believer in setting real objectives that are really balanced based on our real values And when we do, we don't live in the fear so much. We live in the action towards fulfilling our life.
Mm-hmm.
There's two types of fears. The fear of loss of that which we seek, that we're infatuated with, and the fear of gain of that which we resent, we try to avoid. I don't want to seek and avoid like an amygdala. That's the passion world. I'm interested in living on a mission where I embrace both sides equally. When you're neutral, there's no fear.
Do you experience fear anymore?
Whenever I'm under my illusion that I'm going to get more advantage and disadvantage, and I fear the loss of it, or I'm going to get more disadvantage and advantage, and I fear the gain of it, sure. And whenever I do, I now know to ask the right questions to dissolve the illusion and move past it.
And what about fear when, like, I don't see it, like if some, God forbid, a family member is sick, what is the advantage of that? I don't see that. That can be really
that's
scary.
A perfect lesson for them to learn, isn't it? If they're sick, they're trying to get their physiology is trying to give them feedback on about being authentic, about how to eat, how to live, their lifestyle, what their priorities are, what their careers are. I always say symptoms are unconscious motives and strategies in order to get more authentic.
Wow. But what if you, God forbid, lose a person?
Well, then I go with the only thing that we fear the loss of in people are the things we infatuate with. If we really feel love for somebody, we honor the moment they're passing. Who are we to judge when they're supposed to go? We have a fantasy about when they're supposed to go. We don't know. So what happens is to honor what it is. If they pass, honor it. Be present with it. Don't put them on pedestals and put them in pits. Put them in your heart. You'll feel their presence. You can't feel the loss of somebody you really feel true grace for and love. You only feel the loss of the parts of them you're infatuated with. When the general from Iran died, when Trump's team took him out or whatever, all the people in Iran were sitting there grieving his loss. 5 million people came out to grieve his loss. In America, because we saw him as a villain, not a hero, we weren't infatuated with him. We didn't celebrate, we didn't have a grief process. We had a celebration. Oh, we finally get rid of the terrorist. So if you resent somebody and they die, we don't grieve. If we infatuate with them and they die, we grieve. If we love them, neither one of those occur. Grief and relief are only polarized perspectives that together combine at the same time make love.
Wow. That's a very, very, very deep topic.
Oh, I have a new book that's just coming out on the grief, because I've been, teaching people how to dissolve grief. The work I've done has been used in the Christchurch earthquake, the Maldives tsunami, the tsunami in Japan, the earthquake in Japan, the one in China. We brought in our facilitators and used the methods to dissolve grief. And we have a science of that. So that's something I've got a book out on that's in the making that's going out soon that is about that. Because there's absolutely no reason a person has to stay in prolonged grief more than 3 hours. It's about all it takes. If you know what you're doing, you know how to dissolve it.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, I'm looking forward to that book. It sounds very important, and I'm sure a lot of people will benefit from that.
Well, most people run the story, and they're traditionally taught. A lot of it's cultural. And I was in El Salvador, surfing in El Salvador back in the 70s. And all of a sudden, I saw this big procession of about 200-300 people walking, and I joined in, and I said, "¿Qué pasa? What's happening here?" He says, "Well, our mayor just died." And I said, "Oh." And I was shocked because it was a big celebration. We went down to the cemetery, and they had a feast and dancing and singing and feasting of food, and they perceived it as the celebration and freedom of the mortal body into the spirit world. And I thought, wow, that's an interesting perspective. Then if you go to Greece, guess what they do? They sit there and think that maybe they should be mourning for 2 years and with wearing black. I thought, well, this is cultural belief systems affected around the same exact thing. So that means it can't be that other than a cultural tradition that's sitting there. So I started exploring this back in the 70s and developed a method by the 80s on how to dissolve that.
Wow. Wow. Do you have a name for the book yet or not?
Well, it's just basic right now. The working title of it is Relief from Grief in simple steps. But the final title, I don't know. The publishers, I've been rejected for 6 publishers because they're afraid, they're shocked by the things that I say in there. But, I've got 4,000 death cases that I've actually taken through privately with that work. And I've got a track record at Yale University. They've done research and actually seen me do it live. And we have a 100% track record with it. They've never seen anything like it. They compared it to 2 other approaches to it, and nobody got results. We got 100% results. And that's something that they've never seen. So they wrote a paper on it, and they're the one that also say, man, you need to get this out there. People need to know about this.
Beautiful. Wow. Well, I'm glad I asked. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. I want to be respectful of your time. And before we say goodbye for now, what are your 3 top tips to living a stellar life, and where can people find you?
Well, the first tip is to make sure you listen to Stellar Life and just listen and keep learning from whoever's on the guest on there, because there's bound to be guests on there that blow people's mind and inspire them. But I would say that you give yourself permission to do something extraordinary on planet Earth, and realize that the magnificence of who you truly are, your authentic self, is far greater than any fantasies you'll ever impose on yourself or compare yourself to people. Stop comparing. Start doing actions that align with your highest values and liberate yourself from a lot of the low priority stuff, and delegate the heck out of the things that aren't inspiring to you, and give yourself permission to do the things that really uplift and that really you want to go and do on a spontaneous basis.
Beautiful. And where can people find you?
They can find me simply going on drdemartini.com. I'm all over the internet, as you probably know.
Yes, and your YouTube channel is extraordinary. So if people want more of you, they should go on your website and take the value assessment. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, they can do the value determination process on drdemartini.com. That'll be a gold mine. And do it again a week from now, a month from now, and a quarter from now. And keep it, it's private, and compare it and look at it and be honest with your answers. And it will be value. I promise that'll be a value in your life. We have thousands, millions of people using that in companies, organizations. It's being used all over.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Demartini. Thank you so much for being here. I am so happy that we got a chance to talk again. And thank you for everything that you shared here and all the beautiful wisdom that you shared here with us.
Well, thank you for, again, the opportunity. It's great to catch up and give hugs to your son and your husband again. It's great to see them. They popped in there real quick. And love you all. And thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, listeners. Remember to realize the magnificence of who you are and stop comparing yourself to others, and just give yourself permission to be and have a stellar life. This is Orion. Till next time. Thank you for joining me on my mission to light people up and change lives around the world. I hope today's conversation inspires you to step up, go after the life of your dreams, and be who you want to be. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go to stellarlifepodcast.com for show notes, transcripts, and other cool stuff. And please subscribe, review, and help spread the word by sharing us on Facebook and Twitter. Have a lovely day, and I'll catch you on the next episode.